Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, so much for joining us. We have an amazing show lined up for you guys today. We took a bit of a break last Sunday, but now we're ready to rock here. We have lots to talk about, guys. We also just had the Bitcoin group on Friday, last Friday, so check that out. And of course, we just had the Bitcoin talk show a few minutes ago. So we have a lot of stuff here on the World Crypto Network. And of course, guys, also don't forget to check out our audio stream. We have a iTunes account there, and we're streaming a bunch of different stuff besides that's even on our YouTube channel. So we have a bunch of different people from Adam Meister and JW Weatherman, all sorts of people on there. So check that out, guys. That's really cool. Let's go ahead and get into your quick pick section so we can go over the week's news real quick, and then we'll introduce our amazing panelists and then get right into the first topic. So first, guys, looks like R3 back in the news, reportedly running out of money yet again. But I guess the entire crypto community, I think at this point, expected this, right? We not only expected this, but we don't actually seem really to mind either, because for years, R3 kind of, belittled Bitcoin a lot. They're like, Bitcoin experiment has failed. These are the guys that said the Bitcoin experiment has failed. They pretty much started the, no blockchain, or we don't need a blockchain, the blockchain not Bitcoin thing. And so they, of course, famously came out and said that, hey, guys, we don't need a blockchain, after taking hundreds of millions of dollars on the premise that they were a blockchain, is again in the news. So check that out, guys. That's a great article. A little bit of Schadenfreude there. A little bit of happiness that they're running out of money because they just don't do things correctly over there at R3. So check that link out. And then pretty exciting news about this, guys. Jason Wong has forked Alex Bosworth's submarine swap project. So where he actually got swapping of coins, atomic swapping of coins on Lightning between Litecoin and Bitcoin. So check that out. He's got the video of it. It's really, really cool. Again, guys, atomic swaps over Lightning from Bitcoin to Litecoin. This is going to be the future. This is the very beginnings of the future. So check that out. Very much encourage everybody to see that. Of course, all the links for this and more is in the show notes below, as always, guys. So make sure to check that out. And then Mr. Matt Corello has issued a brand new paper and some code. There's some software with this about a brand new mining pool protocol called BetterHash. This is really cool, guys. You guys have to check that out because this will bring tons more decentralization to Bitcoin. I've said it, Andreas said it already as well, but look, we've reached peak centralization in mining, and now we're going over the curve to more decentralized stuff. And this is a perfect, amazing example of that manifesting. We have, again, guys, this protocol is really amazing. I encourage all mining pool operators to upgrade to this protocol because, and if they haven't yet, I encourage all people that are in a pool, contact your mining pool operators today and get them to support BetterHash. It's really early days for BetterHash, but this is amazing. This is what's going to replace Stratum, we hope. So, guys, check that out. This is a way better protocol. This is very important that we get this rolled out across the network. So check that out. And then crypto51.app is a new site, or at least new to me, guys, showing how easy it is to a 51% attack most of the coins out there, most of the proof of work coins. It's really interesting. It's a lot cheaper than you think. And we've been saying this for years, guys, on the World Crypto Network, that most tokens out there, especially Ethereum, is simply not safe, guys. They move fast and break things at the protocol level. It's just almost nothing out there that I've seen is actually secure or safe. And then Microsoft it looks like Microsoft is going to buy GitHub, and a lot of the Bitcoin community is not super happy about this. They pretty much are going to call for an exit over time, over a certain amount of period, to basically kind of gradually get off of GitHub and hopefully onto some other alternative. And then Visa Network, the Visa Network crashed for a few days, guys, over there in Europe. They literally crashed for days. You couldn't use Visa on debit card or credit card, completely showing how centralized and horrible the old traditional financial system is. Very interesting. Check that out, guys. That was really fun. And then finally, the last story, we are now less than 2 years away from the next Bitcoin halving. So that is just awesome. We're moving along. New blocks being produced every 10 minutes. Bitcoin continues to grow. And I look forward to seeing everybody at that halving and the halving after that. So with that aside, guys, let's go ahead and introduce our amazing panelists for you today. We have a great show lined up. Let's go ahead. We have a special guest. We're going to be talking about HodlHodl. So first we have Roman and Max. Roman, how you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome, man. Then we got Mr. Max himself as well. Max, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. Hi. Thanks for having us here.
You bet, man. So we got the CEO and the CTO, I believe, of HodlHodl Exchange here to talk. And we have a surprise last panelist, guys, a surprise guest last panelist, the famous, analyst, Bitcoin analyst himself that everybody knows, Mr. Tour de Meester. Tour, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going? Good to be here. Yeah, doing well.
You bet, man. Thanks so much for joining us again. We love to have you on here, Tour. We've had you on the show a few times before, and of course, as always, your knowledge is very, very vital and very, very important. So thank you so much for joining again, guys. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is pretty exciting stuff. You guys have been around for a while, at least over a year from what I'm looking at, and you guys have several different things in play here. You guys have the exchange, you guys have the conference and the index and various things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about those things. But first, of those things, I'd like to talk a little bit about the exchange. So first, Roman, maybe you could kick us off a little bit and give us the history, a little bit of HodlHodl, why you guys started this exchange, and why you guys think that that this exchange really is important to the community.
Right, because everybody else kept the coins in their own wallets. Every other exchange did that at the time, and I think there was no BISC when we started this HodlHodl, and BISC is obviously a very interesting project. But at the time there was nothing, and we looked at local Bitcoins, which we ourselves used, and we could see various ways in which we could improve that. And one of the most important features of HodlHodl is that it doesn't hold your Bitcoins, because it requires 2 keys to release the funds from escrow, and one key belongs to the seller, and we don't store that key on our servers. We don't know it, so the funds are much they're stored much more safely than they are on local Bitcoins. And then talking about BISC, like while we were developing HodlHodl, we also saw the development of BISC, and it's as I said, it's a very exciting project. The guys in BISC are really great, but we also wanted to have this the right balance between being too complicated and secure. And I think BISC is more on the side of being more secure, but also more complicated for the users, because it requires you to install the software in your computer and things like that. So those are this is where we're coming from.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, very important to understand, guys. This is a non-custodial exchange, so that means that they will not be holding your funds. Like something like a Coinbase or something like a local Bitcoins. So Max, let me ask you, why did you guys go this kind of no KYC route? Because that's something that I thought was really, really awesome. Because now, of course, local Bitcoins has started issuing KYC, and you guys are strictly no KYC, which I thought was awesome. What is the decision behind that route for you guys?
Well, I think in general, there's an idea of Bitcoin is to provide you some sort of confidentiality, and not to not to report to anyone on why are you doing this transfer, or why are you taking this money, and why are you doing this and that. So we took this idea, which is like common and everyone knows that, and we thought, why you should build I don't know, the exchange that requires you to pass all the documents for decentralized cryptocurrency, which actually is meant to be to provide you some kind of anonymity or confidentiality. So it was kind of weird seeing all this stuff that centralized exchange, they do require you to send all over all these blah blah blah, send the ID and all this thing. And they're actually, last year in December, we saw that most of the centralized exchange was struggling with providing proper services, because the amount of users will increasing, and there was the support team and the KYC team was unable to just take this flow into. So but in general, yeah, it's Roma is more polite in that way. I'm more against KYC AML, because I don't actually understand why I should report to anyone from where I have money and how do I spend them. It's my personal thing. I don't do any illegal activities. I don't do any illegal stuff. So why should I report to anyone what I'm doing with my own money? So that's the general idea, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. This is what's really important. You made a really important point there about how during the surge last year, about how pretty much every single centralized exchange, almost every single centralized service went down. Like they just could not keep up with the demand, especially things like Coinbase and even Bitfinex. All of these things, they went down. And there were so much complaints about Bitcoin and Bitcoin fees, but the fee market was completely sustainable. The fee market completely allowed Bitcoin to survive and stay alive. And here we are now with Bitcoin being super low fees, and with SegWit now and Lightning on the way. We are much more prepared for the next surge. Again, people are now batching, right, transactions, and that's a really big important thing. But yeah, it's just important to understand, guys, Bitcoin didn't go down during the surge. Sure, it was maybe a little bit slower, took a little bit longer, more expensive, right, to get your transactions in faster, but Bitcoin didn't go down. All of these centralized exchanges went down, and a whole bunch of them to this day, like June in 2018, still to this day are still approving KYC applications that were submitted last fall. So this is just, ridiculous and kind of unsustainable. And I agree with these guys that, look, this is the future. This is what Bitcoin's going to bring us, is all of these non-custodial services, the ability to control of your money, right, your information. And so that's why I think that this is a really important exchange for the community. And let's see what Tour says. Tour, what are your thoughts on the conversation so far and the HodlHodl's exchange? Have you ever used it? Got a chance to use it yet?
No, I haven't yet. I'm actually, like, philosophically, I like it a lot. I'm not against custody, like you making things easy and third-party custody, those kind of things. But I do really support any initiative that helps Bitcoin improve its moneyness. And so I think we need a rich ecosystem. And there's a lot of exchanges out there that do centralized custody, and that's fine. But there's some particular vulnerabilities with that approach. And so I really like that there's more variety when it comes to the non-custodial solutions. I kind of see it like, like a forest where there's pine trees and then there's deciduous trees, and they each have their strengths. And so when there's a forest fire, usually the pine trees will end up gaining some ground because they're more resilient. So in the same sense, I want there to be redundancy. I want there to be backup systems. And also I want for Bitcoin to be able to be used as cash. And so the nature of cash is that you can trade on a personal basis, on an informal basis. And so why not also support that online? Like, I think that makes sense. And then on top of that, Max and Roman are just really stand-up guys, and they've been around for a long time. So that's why I'm excited about HodlHodl.
Absolutely. Old school Bitcoiners, I guess you could say. We should probably ask maybe when they got into Bitcoin. So maybe we'll ask first. I wanted to ask a little bit about Lightning, but we'll ask that as a secondary question. So first, Roman, do you guys have any plans to maybe implement Lightning into the exchange? I know that we had, a special guest last time on the show talking about how they were going to use Lightning to be able to for their transactions, to be able to have a transaction out of the order book instantly without even have to have any funds on their exchange either. So I was wondering, maybe are you guys thinking about Lightning? If you are, what are you guys thinking about doing with that? And finally, of course, when did you get into Bitcoin, Roman?
Right. Let me start with Lightning, because it's kind of an easier question. So we are thinking about the Lightning Network. I think it's a very interesting technology, very promising technology in the early days right now. And the challenge for us to try and integrate it right now is that it would add an additional layer of both complexity and potential disputes, because peer-to-peer exchanges have lots and lots of disputes. We had disputes between our users that we had to resolve. Luckily, they were all resolved to the satisfaction of both sides. But the problem with the Lightning Network is that, the design is such that I foresee potential problems with it right now, both with integration and, with everyday use. It's just, I think it's going to take some time. And our exchange is quite young right now, and we have a lot of challenges to take on before we can integrate Lightning. But for sure, it's a very promising technology.
Yeah, and that's what we're hearing, is that it's just very early. Of course, they just recently launched beta on mainnet, so stuff is very, very early days, and there's all sorts of exciting stuff around it, like with L2 and multipath payments and so on and so forth, and watchtowers. Lots of the stuff is coming. So yeah, so it sounds like you guys are thinking about it and looking into it. So that's good. Maybe hopefully.
I think for Lightning, it would be better if everybody does like small transactions. Buying coffee, I know it sounds benign, but like buying coffee, buying small things, and then when we see that it matured, then maybe it can be used for larger transactions.
Absolutely, and there are limits right now, I believe, on the Lightning Network transaction about how much you can transfer, and so that's a good thing because Lightning was always designed to be a network for smaller transactions, like to have these fast, instantaneously small transactions. But of course, there's some risk and reward that's trade-off with that. There's always trade-off in network security. There's always trade-off. So the trade-off was that you do get a little bit, less secure, a little bit more complexity and things like that. But yeah, it's continuing to mature, and so it's very exciting to hear you guys hear that you guys are thinking about that and how you guys are going to integrate that. So very cool. So let me ask you, Max, what are your thoughts then on Lightning? Are they very similar as well? And when did you first get into Bitcoin? Oh, Roman, you never asked. Oh yeah, I forgot to ask. Sorry, Max. Let's ask Roman.
Right.
When did you get into Bitcoin,
Apologies.
Roman, first?
Right. I think a friend of mine introduced me back in 2012, and I started. I didn't buy back then, by the way. So I was just like really excited about it because that was about the time when Gavin Andresen was invited into the CIA or something, and I read the news and was like, oh whoa, that must be something interesting. And then I tried to convince a couple of people who had more money than I had to, I told them about it and I said, well, consider that as an investment because I think it's kind of cool. And they, they didn't buy, and so I had to buy myself eventually. So this is how I got into Bitcoin, and it's been a very interesting ride since then.
Very cool, very cool. So 2012 is when you got in. That's definitely considered an OG these days. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I was introduced to Bitcoin by actually my former client, and the interesting thing is that I was like, for 9 years I was working in a bank as a private banker. So and then at some point he introduced me to Bitcoin, and it was, I think I went into crypto was 2013, 2014, something like that. So it's 4 or 5 years, and at some point I was just sitting in my at my desk in the bank, and I was thinking that I was looking at the mobile wallet on my phone, was understanding that I can basically instantly send like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever, with like lowest fee that is possible at that moment, and to anyone in the world. And I was thinking, why the fuck do you need banks actually for doing? And that's at that point I started to understand that I should move in this in crypto and all that stuff. Regarding Lightning, yeah, we actually had already a few conversations with Lightning developers, which Roma didn't mention, already in the beginning of this year. But as Roma mentioned, we still have a lot of challenges and a lot of developments that we're currently working on them. And also we had recently launched a side project, which we use the same multi-sig escrow system. And so definitely it's a yes to Lightning, but I don't think it will be like nearest future, because as Roma mentioned, there's still like few security risks that we see, and we don't have so much developers to work completely and fully on Lightning. But for us, it will be really great because it will allow people to make like small trades, like 10 euros, like, or $20 to exchange. It will allow to do it at low cost and fast speed. So it's important for any exchange, I think, to integrate this stuff in the future.
Awesome, you bet. Yeah, and I think you'll probably be able to do swaps as well, like over Lightning. As we said in the quick bits there, they are doing this right now with submarine swaps with Alex Bosworth's code. So yeah, that's really cool, and this is really exciting stuff. So I'm glad you guys are thinking about that. Let me ask you, Tor, what are your thoughts so far on the progress of Lightning, and maybe as it relates to exchanges?
Yeah, I agree with Max and Roman. Like it really is. It's better technology. It's just, I mean, the exciting thing to me is that there is no, how should I say? There's no 0-day alarmist news that we've heard that the system somehow is fundamentally broken. Right? It's more about ironing things out and making sure that people understand the trade-off and then optimizing the user experience and also continually optimizing the protocol. I mean, I think it's exciting that we have what, like 6 different implementations that are compatible with each other already. It's just that's incredible to me. I think that's an amazing start. So yeah, I mean, even though for me, short term, I don't see payments as the prime use case for Bitcoin, I do think it increases in the long term its moneyness, like its utility as money. So it's another check mark next to, you know, Bitcoin as being a very performant reserve asset, digital gold, digital money that is going to just keep growing.
Awesome. Very well said. I agree with all that. It is still early days, as I try to keep reminding people. We're still working on things like user interfaces. You know, we're using command line prompts for almost everything. Including all the mining software. And if you're going to start any type of Bitcoin business, you're going to want to run Bitcoin D, and just all of these things is just a little bit clunky right now. And it really is. I try to tell people, like, around the internet, circa maybe 1989 or 1991, we haven't even had our Netscape moment yet. We're still using these big numbers, command line prompts, and things like that. So yeah, good points, Tor. I think that we're going to get there. It's just going to take a couple more years, and I think there's a lot of people in the community that are excited about the prospect of this really taking off. So very awesome.
For perspective, because you were talking about like comparing with the internet, I believe Windows 1995. So 1995, the adoption rate in the US was 10-11%. So if you look at Bitcoin, that's now about 2%. So we could be a few years off of that 1995 moment. Maybe 2020.
Great point. Yeah, that's what I'm really expecting it kind of to take off. Between 2020 and 2024, that's when stuff just is going to start going like straight up. And then by 2028, 2032, it's pretty much over. Like at that point, we have the infrastructure inversion that Andreas talked about. Everybody's pretty much switched over to Bitcoin at that point for settlement, I think, across the globe, at least all the major, like G20 countries and such. So very interesting points, Tor. I think I have another question here for Roman here about the exchange. Let's talk about your guys's HodlHodl index. Maybe just tell us about how that kind of came to be and what that's all about.
Right. We're interested. First of all, I wanted to make a news website, both for ourselves and for maybe our friends at first. That was no bullshit and just with titles that you could just read. You could read the titles and understand what the news is about without reading the body of the article, right? And that was the major idea behind the news website, and that's what we did. And it's still, essentially we hold this principle by this day. When you go to our news website, you don't have to go and read the article. You can just read the title, and then. We also started marking every news as bullish or bearish, right? And then we realized, hey, it's only logical to make a chart out of this. I mean, not a lot of thought has been put into making this chart. It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty basic, but some people said that it helps them. So I'm glad it does.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, so just to clarify, basically you guys have this news website, and every article that you publish on there is either bearish or bullish. You guys mark that as either bearish or bullish.
Not necessarily. Sometimes some of them are neutral, right? And we also mark them either Bitcoin or blockchain or both, because I think it's a very important distinction.
Yes, awesome. So that's really cool. So you can actually then be able to plot out a chart of how many bullish articles and how many bearish and how many neutral are over time. So that is very interesting. So let me ask you, Max. Did you? Roman said you guys didn't think about it too much. Are you guys thinking about maybe expanding it in the future, or maybe adding additional features to it, or is it just mostly staying as it is right now for now?
Yeah, we actually it's a nice question, good question. Should be addressed to Roma actually. To be honest, but
there's always a struggle between me and Max, because he always wants new features, and I'm like the conservative one in the team. I'm always like, no, we can't do that because we have no time, we have no developers, we have no money. Show me the developers, show me the money, then we can do something with it. But so it's difficult,
Yeah, but the eventual idea, what we want to do with we just want to make that our readers can upvote and downvote this news. So this bullishness of the news or bearishness of the news will increase or decrease, so that the people will be able. We just put a bullish or bearish flag, and people decide how bullish it is or how bearish it is. So it will be eventually. I want to create something similar to, I think it's Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index, something like that. Well, maybe Tour is more familiar with that, because it's like economical sentiment index, where each month people call to 2,000 households and they ask what's your sentiment, whether you will buy something, or how you're feeling, and blah blah blah. People just saying this, and a sentiment index is actually used in stock trading, which I was doing prior to joining crypto. And it's quite kind of helpful. It just shows the sentiment on the market, how people are feeling about the economy in general. So what we want to do with this index, we just want to create a tool that will allow our readers or people within community just upvote, downvote. So it will be some kind of Bitcoin news sentiment index based on people that read this news and that feeling that whether Bitcoin will go up or it will go down. So it will be more like community-based stuff.
Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, so I found it definitely interesting, you know, looking at the data over time. I think this can be very valuable. So let me ask you, Tor, what are your thoughts then on this HODL index and like this idea of a sentiment index and how it relates to Bitcoin? Do you think this is how important do you think this is? And maybe where do you see this type of thing going or maturing?
Yeah, sentiment indices, I think, especially short term, are really are useful. I find them most useful when you can kind of drill down into the audiences in a more granular way, where you can talk about, you know, this is sentiment amongst institutional investors, this is the lay public, this is like the influencers. I had a call a while ago with the creator of cryptoinfluencers.io. So he has this interesting ranking where it's almost like a Google PageRank type mechanism, where if an influencer follows another influencer, then that infers influence to that other influencer. And so I think, yeah, we'll see a lot more. You know, I think there's too little sentiment information, and so I'm glad that this is here. And I'm looking forward to that developing more. And I agree with Max, like it is going to be a tool in the toolbox because institutional traders are coming in now. Like people who just look at technicals, look at sentiment indicators, and who trade the news. Like today, Bitcoin is down 10%. It's possible that it's because, I mean, the technicals were kind of looking, it was going to go one way or the other. But I think it was trading on the news that another South Korean exchange got hacked. And then yesterday, these 4 US exchanges were probed to give more information to the authorities. So yeah, all that is traders need to know, like, and it's going to become a second by second market.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I guess there was a bit of a crackdown, I guess they say, right, on Bitcoin recently. But again, this stuff is mostly just sensational for news and things like that. I'm sure you agree, Tor, that that you know this is not affecting any type of underlying technology. This is again just governments trying to fight back and get more control or more control that they perceive of over the network. What do you think?
Well, and it's the traders' bread and butter, right? I mean, traders provide liquidity, they provide volume, which is very vital, important for you know, for Bitcoin, and their bread and butter is the news, and it doesn't matter for them if it goes up and down. Like they just trade direction. And then also algo traders, you know, they'll just they'll even have bots that will do the trading for them. So it's all vital part of the ecosystem, and it's often misunderstood, I think, the role of traders in an ecosystem like this.
Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, there's a lot of people that like Tone Vase that, you know, they get a lot of hate for saying when Bitcoin is going up or down. And so, yeah, people need to understand that like traders are pretty important to markets. You know, they do keep the markets in check and to figure out what's going on. And, you know, we do have these things called market makers. You know, a lot of people misconstrue that as like manipulation and things like that. But yeah, I agree. There's a couple big points in there I want to go over real quick to where you said you mentioned crypto influencer, and that's a really great site, cryptoinfluencer.io. He again uses an algorithm to actually determine influence, and that is really, really cool. Because personally, from what I found, that's the most accurate site to find crypto influencers, in my opinion. I mean, of course, Tour, you're ranked up there pretty high, probably in the top 10, I think, or top 20. But it really, in my opinion, it really was one of the most, and continues to be one of the most accurate lists to figure out who's actually saying what in crypto. Because at this point, in this day, especially this year, we've had so many of these freaking, you know, these billionaire lists and these crypto influencer lists from all of these sites, and some of them haven't even you know, contacted the actual people. They just like put them up there, and like all sorts of shadiness has been going around this. So I'm glad you mentioned that site. You guys got to check that out, because there is just so much of this hand holding. I mean, every time I look at a crypto influencer list, I see people like Vinny and, you know, maybe some other people that they clearly don't understand crypto as a whole, maybe just a little niche of it. But yeah, so very interesting. And then finally, you said, Tour, that, you know, institutional traders are coming. And I believe that that's absolutely true as well this year specifically, because everybody, I think, is trying to get in by 2020. You know, all the big institutions have announced or at least signaled that they're going to work with Bitcoin somehow, like Goldman and like New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ. They've all come forward and said that they're going to offer some kind of trading or trading desk or futures or some kind of market. Let me ask you, Tour, do you see this year as the year that maybe the institutional investment all tries to pile in before 2020?
Well, yes, it just depends on how you define piling in, because you know, institutions that want to plug into this ecosystem to offer trading and all kinds, you know, it's the private clients that ask it as well. You know, running hedge funds the past, you know, 10 years has been pretty difficult. And so, yeah, there are a lot of institutional players that are looking to expand their services, but you know, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy that at this point, every institution that wants access is a long-term believer in one or the other cryptocurrency, right? They just, a lot of them mostly want access, and they're going to just trade directionally. And at the same time, we're seeing the, you know, I think increasing pressure on what you could call the existing Bitcoin exchange ecosystem. I think we'll see pressure from a regulatory side, and not all of them are probably going to survive. And some of that activity is going to go to firms that are already established and that are just going to tack on Bitcoin and a few other cryptocurrencies. And so that battle, you know, we could see some blood in the streets. There's also ICOs that have treasuries that would potentially are going to be forced to liquidate. So I'm still waiting for a few more shoes to drop. But at the same time, yes, absolutely. Like, the more institutions that get involved, that is super bullish long term. Like, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I think Tour, I definitely agree with Tour here, and I want to come back to sort of reiterate the point that you had a couple of minutes ago. You said that, you know, by 2020 we'll have the infrastructure, we'll have adoption, we'll have everything. Well, I think this is far from being set. I think Tour is correct that this is a fight, and we're going to fight it. We're going to build things. We're going to do, you know, do stuff and promote and explain and you know, do whatever is necessary. So the future is far from being set, for sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you, Rowan, because I can see the future. And I will tell you that by 2020, Bitcoin is going to be everywhere. No, I mean, it's just, you just got to look at the trends. I think, you know, if you look at all the trends of the hashing power, you look at all the trends of the wallet numbers, right? How software continues to get better, even block propagation optimization. I mean, if you just look at that over the past couple of years, you know, it's all just kind of pointing, and there has to be some kind of influx point. And nobody knows.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, right?
Yeah,
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I'm just, what I'm trying to say is just that it takes effort. Mutual effort, like, you know, people working on things. So I guess that's my point.
Oh, absolutely. No, for sure, guys. I think this community is definitely, you know, what some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And absolutely, of course, the developers are just on another level. So I definitely have faith that they're going to figure out some of these problems. But yeah, we're looking forward to this, guys. I think we're all in this for the long term. So this is what's great, is that, you know, even the iPhone is 10 years old. Like, all the iPhone apps and everything that you know about the iPhone with Uber and all of these things, you know, I mean, less than 10 years old. So it's going to be interesting to see where Bitcoin is just 5 years from now, after, you know, right before the halving of 2024. So very, very interesting stuff. Let's I think we can move on actually, before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to ask about the conference you guys are running a little bit. So let me ask you, how did what is the name of this conference? I believe it's the Baltic Honey Badger Conference. But what how did this kind of start? And what, are you guys going to hold one this year? And kind of maybe you can share some of the big speakers or something like that.
Yeah, I will answer that most probably. Yeah, we already announced actually days 22, 23rd of September in Riga, Latvia, and definitely this year. More people coming. We'll have 2 full days. We'll have twice more parties and all this stuff. A lot of speakers coming from previous edition, like last year, because we received like tons of positive feedback, which was really great. And community was community was just awesome. People who were speaking on the conference, they were like, hey, I'm going, I can invite this one and this one and this one. So it was just word of mouth that people were helping to onboard more and more people. As for big names for this year, I can mention actually you guys as well. So everyone on the show will be speaking on this conference. Tour, Vortex, me as well, Roma most probably. But I just want to keep in secret other names because we will launch the website hopefully this week, because we wanted to launch it like previous week, but we have some technical issues, so we will launch it this week, and you will see the not all of the speakers, but at least like 60-70% of all the speakers, because we like to keep some of the names in secret and announce it closer to the date. But trust me, this year it will be more epic, and it will be as well as a previous year. No ICO, no blockchain, snake oil bullshit, and just technical about Bitcoin, about ideology, and we will keep it like this. And we're trying actually. We're willing to keep the prices for the conference as low as it possible. So to be honest, like last year, we didn't earn anything. We just covered our expenses, and that's it. And we will do this conference with the same approach. So it's just gathering of people from all around the world, and hopefully some people from far away will come as well. Last year, we had a guy who actually attended and fly from Australia. I hope that this year we will have some people from Japan, maybe, I don't know, New Zealand.
We just had one guy from Australia. Hopefully this year we get 2 guys at least from Australia.
Yeah, at least so.
Maybe one from New Zealand. So
yeah, I bought him a beer last year, so I'm more than happy to buy him something like more stronger, like vodka this year. So
if anyone's listening to us from New Zealand, so please come to the conference. Max will buy you a beer. So if you're from New Zealand.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, guys. Yeah, so this is really cool. This sounds like, this is becoming, or actually it is already one of the few Bitcoin conferences around the year, right? Not a blockchain, but an actual Bitcoin conferences. And there's only a few of these around the year, guys. So definitely check this one out, the Baltic Honey Badger Conference. I will be, of course, attending this year as well, as Max already said, and everybody here on the panel. It is pretty far away, of course, from the United States, but it's from what I heard last year. And if you guys look at last year's lineup, I mean, holy smokes, guys, this is the Bitcoin community. This is Bitcoin's conference. So very, very cool. Roman, do you want to say anything else about the conference before we move on to the next topic?
Not much. I'll just be attending, just like everybody else, not speaking. But yeah, I hope it's going to be great. Riga is a beautiful town, and I think anyone who comes and join us will enjoy not just the conference, but also their stay in Riga.
Awesome.
I want to add something, if I may. So I think there's actually like almost a proof of work aspect to the conference, because it takes some organizing to get there, and it costs money to travel there. And I think that it's kind of a filter. You really need to want to connect with people who are developing the tech and who may not be waiting in line to fund your startup, but it's going to allow you to build some long-term relationships that could help you in the long run, and that help you understand, at least for me, to help you understand where Bitcoin is going. And so it's just this really nice, to me, it's so much was a kickback to the early Bitcoin conference, 2012, 2013. That's really the vibe I got, and so yeah, it's absolutely a highlight. Like I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's what I heard. You know, that's what I hear is that this really is a Bitcoin conference of like the 2012, 2013 era. And that's really, really great to hear, because I think that needs to be brought back like crazy, because obviously we've had this whole crazy thing since 2014 and into 2015 about the blockchain, not Bitcoin, snake oil stuff. And that's really glad to hear that there is still a few of these conferences left, like being supported by people like yourselves who are interested in Bitcoin's future and not just, you know, selling somebody some new ICO and whatever blockchain snake oil is coming next. So we'll be sure to talk a whole lot about R3 and Hyperledger once we get there. So all right, I think we can move on to the next topic, guys. So thanks so much so far. Really thank our guests so much for joining us, guys. We of course don't pay any of our guests. We ask them kindly to come on the show, talk about Bitcoin, and this is what we're doing. So one more thanks again to everybody who is joining us today. Let's go ahead and go on to the next topic. Oh, Roman, did you have something?
No. I was just like,
yes. So let's go ahead and get into.
I was like, no pay? What? I'm out of here.
Sorry, Tour. I'm sorry, man. I can't pay you. But yeah, so very, very cool. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thanks to everybody, of course, in the chat as well. We're having a good time in there. And if you guys missed the show, you know, we try to be here every Sunday. And of course, join us in the comments. We'd love to hear your feedback on the show. There's always a good conversation there as well. So let's go ahead and move on. Oh, and of course, if you guys are live here, go ahead and please give us a thumbs up if you guys like what you're seeing. We try to bring you guys content every day to every week. A lot of content here on the World Crypto Network. So if you guys enjoy it, please hit the thumbs up button. And if you are new, please hit the subscribe button below. But let's go ahead and move into the next topic. Looks like Tour's got to go here in a few minutes. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. We got the SEC chairman basically saying that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are not securities, but most ICOs are. So let's ask Tour first here. Tour, what are your thoughts on this news about the chairman coming out and saying that pretty much like Litecoin and Bitcoin pretty much aren't securities, but almost every single ICOs are? Is this something that we expected as Bitcoin people? And what does this mean for Bitcoin at large?
Yeah, I think it's not really a surprise. You know, and these security rules are almost 100 years old. Like it makes sense that they're not going to really change it for cryptocurrencies. The question is more like, you know, what are they going to do with the existing tokens that are out there? How severe is there going to be regulatory? I think it's actually mostly an issue for the exchanges, because they're the ones touching all these assets. Of course, if you've been issuing unregistered securities, then you could also get in trouble, but that's not going to affect the market necessarily so much. But yeah, like I said, like the ICO treasuries, we have to keep an eye on that. There's a lot of money in that. And then the exchanges, if they have to delist a lot of tokens, that could really you know, shake the markets. So I think I listened to the interview with him, and it seems like they're going to come out pretty soon. There's this lady who's now the cryptocurrency czar, supposedly at the SEC. So I think they're going to come out with some more clarity about their position, especially with regards to Ether and Ripple, whether or not they're securities. And then, you know, that's going to have a lot of repercussions. But, you know, the SEC also doesn't want to rattle the markets too much. It's really tea leaf reading. But I think the big takeaway is Bitcoin is a commodity, and that helps a lot. That helps institutions a lot to build products around it and to just choose whatever structure they need to then do stuff with Bitcoin. So that's been becoming clear in the past, you know, few months, and I think that's a big win to have Bitcoin very clearly defined as not a security.
Yes, very positive, very, very good. Because again, if it's not a security, then it's not subject to all this crazy amounts of, you know, regulation that goes around with securities and things like that. And I think we're very, very all curious to see, is Ethereum a security? I want to know from the SEC what they think, because I think everybody is going to really, really want clarity on that. I mean, we've been saying at the WCN for years that we think it is a security, and you know, of course, people like Tone Vase as well has been saying that it's a security, and kind of everything issued on top of it is an unlicensed, unregistered security. So we really do need some of this clarification from the SEC. So very glad to see. Yeah.
One data point that really surprised me was to realize that 72% of Ether in circulation today are still stemming from the pre-sale. So those are tokens that were pre-sold before the Ether Genesis block. And so, you know, how were those tokens created, well, with funds that were generated by the pre-sale, and that was created by the Ethereum Foundation. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that at least those 72% are not securities, I think.
Yeah, very interesting points. It's going to be it's really going to be a landmark decision, I think, because this is going to set precedents for the space for the next 10 years to come. So we're all waiting to see on that. And again, guys, I'll have all these guys' Twitter accounts in the show notes, so you guys got to check that out and follow. You got to follow these guys. Tour has analyzes this stuff and has a lot of information, so you can bet when the SEC says something, Tour will tweet about it. So make sure you follow these guys on Twitter. So let's ask Roman, what are your thoughts on this, on Bitcoin possibly being a commodity instead of a security, and you know, from an exchange point of view from you guys, because obviously this would affect you guys a lot, being an exchange. Or maybe not, because you guys are completely non-custodial. So go ahead. What do you think?
Right. So first of all, like all the people who are worried about Bitcoin or Ethereum being classified as a security or not, all of this is going on in the U.S. right now, right? We are not in the U.S. I don't see any reason to be worried about that. We don't really. I mean, there are a few traders on our website from the U.S. and we have like actually a special kind of regime for them, because the U.S. is pretty much the only jurisdiction where we do require some papers, which is pretty sad, but that's how it is. But I really personally, I don't really care. So it's just, I don't really care about those things. You know, people in suits somewhere behind closed doors deciding what Bitcoin is or what it is not. I don't care about that. I don't think anybody here cares about that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. You know, Bitcoin is permissionless. I mean, you can go right now on the network. You can create addresses. You can, you can run a whole bank. You can be a bank with Bitcoin. Bitcoin allows you to be your own bank. You don't actually have to, ask for permission for anything really with regards to Bitcoin. So that's a good point, and that's really what's the power of Bitcoin is this decentralization, this permissionless innovation. And so that's really a good point, because again, guys, people in the U.S. think that the whole world revolves around the U.S. Of course, right? So when SEC says something, we think the whole world's going to jump, and it's like not necessarily. Not with Bitcoin. Maybe with traditional other markets and stuff, okay, fine. But with Bitcoin, no. Bitcoin is global. What the United States does with Bitcoin may have nothing to do with how Australia or how somebody in Russia is using Bitcoin. And again, even what they say is not going to matter a whole lot, because Bitcoin is permissionless. You can't stop somebody from creating an address on the Bitcoin network. You can't stop somebody from sending a transaction from one address to another address on the Bitcoin network. And this is the beauty of this censorship-resistant network. So let's ask. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Roman.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the reason that people are kind of worried about the United States and what they think about a certain thing in Bitcoin or Ethereum is because the US has this influence all over the world. I mean, if you go to any bank in pretty much any country and try to open an account, they will ask you whether you are a US citizen, and if you are, then probably they won't open an account. So US has a lot of influence, and there's a reason why people are concerned about it, and there's the reason why we are concerned about people using our exchange from the United States. But still, as I said, who cares what people in suits decide behind the closed doors?
That's the spirit, man. That's the spirit. All right, let's ask Max. What are your thoughts on the discussion so far, and Bitcoin possibly being a commodity?
In general, it's positive news, I think. And but again, as Roma mentioned, name it whatever. We will do our stuff. We will build it. You can use your own private blockchains. I don't know, Ripple, Jumbo, Mumbo, whatever you like, and keep hodling them. It's like, yeah, like the stuff is, the Bitcoin is truly as a like, I don't know, as a movement in general, as ideology, as a not only cryptocurrency or not only digital gold. It's the whole community of smart people around that. It's phenomenal, actually, to be honest. And people we're like, each year we're making it less vulnerable to government, all this manipulation, all this stuff. The only thing that they can do, basically, at some point, they can manipulate in short term the price. But in long term, everyone understands what's the value proposition of Bitcoin. So I can agree with Roma. Who cares about what the people in suits on closed doors who literally don't understand the economy at all, and they're trying to understand crypto economy, or they're trying to understand, when the guys like in suits, they're trying to say that the blockchain is good, the Bitcoin is bad, and blah blah blah. Well, the people he actually don't understand what the blockchain means, and he don't understand what Bitcoin means, and he should speak with the younger generation who don't understand why you should go to the bank, why you should give your ID card to guy in a suit, and why you just need to report why you need to transfer like 20 or 30 bucks to your friend because of the stupid rules that they create. So yeah, I agree with Roma. Who cares? Name it whatever, security, commodity, I don't know, jumbo mumbo, whatever. If it's fine, if you sleep well with that name, with the definition, then it's good for you. Just do it, whatever.
Yeah, and as Max says, guys, long term, there is nothing that any regulator or any country or any nation state or any bank or pretty much any entity at all can really do to derail Bitcoin. They can, of course, have some market makers, maybe do a little bit of short-term price manipulation, but everybody who believes in Bitcoin is hard at work developing. They have their heads down, programming, and this is the spirit, this is the beauty about Bitcoin and its open source development community. This is really important, is that people will not stop until this thing is fully realized. Does anybody have any final points on this topic before we move on? I think we can tour.
Maybe one thought. The thought I had was that like people like Max and Roman to me represent really the spot market. It's like the real world. This is where in a sense like the people pulling the oil out of the ground, if you make the petroleum analogy. And then, of course, there are going to be sophisticated derivatives built on top of it and all those kind of things. But in the end, it's the spot market who keeps the rest in check. Like if you cannot deliver physical Bitcoin, you're going to go out of business. Or if your price really goes out of whack with the underlying market, with the spot market, then you're gonna at some point be punished by the market. So that's really important to me, regardless of how much faith people have in either the ethics or in the efficacy of regulators. I think it's just without a doubt that we need a functioning spot market so that the value of Bitcoin, which is the scarcity and everything around that can be felt throughout. Like anybody who interacts with Bitcoin in whatever way, that they can still kind of tap into that commodity background, and it's just that it's not just an imaginatory thing where we don't like. That's the problem with fiat money, is often we don't really even know how much there is in circulation, what the reserve status is of things. Auditability is very hard. So I love that about Bitcoin. It's just very highly auditable. So anyway, I just think that both need to exist. We need third-party custody because 90% of people are not going to want to bother with their own private keys. But then we need that backup always to be there so that people can opt out whenever they want to. They can put their Bitcoins in a Bitcoin bank, and then once they don't trust it anymore, they can withdraw it into another system that's more grounded in private control.
Yep, great points, Tor. I mean, this is why, we fought so hard for the user-activated soft fork. This is why we fought so hard for Segway, so that we can continue to keep Bitcoin optimized, so that we can continue to use our own fully validating nodes, so that we can continue to audit the blockchain ourselves without a third party, without a centralized entity like Coinbase and these types of other centralized banks. Basically, they're banks now. Coinbase is very much a bank. They are applying for all sorts of regulatory filings right now, to become, I forget the actual words, but all of these, I mean, if there is a regulation paper to be filed, you can bet Coinbase will have that. That is their superpower, is becoming one with regulation, basically, pleasing all the regulators. And that's fine for now. That's short term. But look, what matters is Bitcoin long term. And long term, as long as we can continue to, like Tor says, just keep building and keep the spot price real, keep this development real, instead of going into some crazy fiat regime where everybody has to believe somebody in order to make something work. You know, this is what's important, is to keep Bitcoin auditable, to keep Bitcoin decentralized. So very, very great points, Tor. Thank you so much. And thanks to all my guests, guys, so much. I think we can end it here. We had a great time. Lots of stuff covered in this show today. Hope you guys learned something. I just want to thank my guests again. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Roman, please tell us. You bet, man. Roman, please tell us, where can we find out more about you?
Right, there's a Twitter account, HodlHodl, @HodlHodl, and obviously the website, which is HodlHodl.com. We also have a Telegram group, so if you want to ask questions about the exchange, you can go there. We also have a YouTube channel with quite a number of useful videos about, not just about our exchange, but also about like basic stuff about how to handle Bitcoin wallets and, you know, do all sorts of stuff with it. So please check it out. And don't forget that we also have a testnet version of our exchange, which is at testnet.hodlhodl.com. And there you can experiment and learn how to use the exchange without risking any money.
Very, very cool. That's another feature, of course, of the exchange, in addition to it being non-custodial and having no KYC. Very, very important, guys, to remember. This is how we want to build exchanges. All right, Max, where can we find out more about you, sir?
Yeah, the same, HodlHodl on the Twitter. Roma actually mentioned everything already. And as for private account, I have my private account, which is Kate&M. In Twitter, I don't know whether Roma is willing to disclose his own private account, but yeah, you can sign up for me. I don't post anything much. I do usually retweet, and sometimes I say something. So I actually don't understand why there's 430 people following me, because there's not so much quality in that. But anyway, they just follow, and I like it. So.
Well, check it out, guys. I'm sure you got some useful things to say there, Max. And so make sure to follow these guys. I have all their links in the show notes. Finally, Mr. Tor, even though we all know where to find you, where can we find you, sir?
I just Google my name. It's the top link. It's my Twitter account.
Just Google Tor. You guys will find him. You know, any type of Google search. You don't even need to add Bitcoin to it. Just type in Tor, and you'll probably find it. So thanks again, guys. Thanks to my guests so much for joining. Thanks for everybody in the chat. And again, if you guys missed the show, please join us in the comments. We try to do the show every Sunday. We try to just keep bringing you more information about Bitcoin. So thanks so much for joining us, guys. And until next time, make sure to keep talking Bitcoin. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Cheers.